Don't Worry, Little Nut, A Story of Mighty Faith, written and illustrated by Kathleen Schurter. There once was an ordinary little acorn who had been given the most precious gift of a simply splendid spot to grow. The acorn hung on what it believed to be the most beautiful branch on the most beautiful tree in all the great, wide woods. This spot suited this particular acorn just splendidly. The warm sun shone on its tiny face at the perfect time of day, and gentle breezes ruffled the surrounding leaves, making soft, sweet music. The simply splendid spot was just the right height for enjoying a simply splendid view. The little acorn was very fond of the squirrel family and the bird family that lived nearby. They were simply splendid neighbors, cheerful and kind. With a grateful heart, the little acorn thanked God each day for the many blessings He bestowed. It knew a life this simply splendid could only come from God, and so joyfully lived each moment just the way any good acorn should. Spring passed into summer, and the acorn weathered many storms in this spot. Through wind and rain, thunder and lightning, heat and cold, the acorn held on tightly to its simply splendid branch and trusted that God had put it right where it was meant to be. When fall approached, the acorn watched with concern as other nearby acorns began to drop one by one. The little acorn watched one let go and roll down the hill until it was completely out of sight. It saw a second fall to the ground, only to be gathered up by a bushy-tailed squirrel and buried with its secret stash. It waved goodbye to a third that bobbed and floated away in the bubbling, babbling creek. It held its breath as a fourth was stepped on by a hiker and pushed deep into the damp, dark soil. The acorn wondered why the others would ever choose to let go.
I never ever want to leave my simply splendid spot. I am so very happy here. I have grown so beautifully. I am so completely comfortable. This is the branch for me. It must be God's plan that I stay right where I am.
And so the little acorn held on with all its acorn might. Day after day it watched as others let go, but it would not loosen its grip on that branch. It simply could not let its simply splendid spot slip away. It could not dream of ever being happy anywhere else. Then, one crisp afternoon, as the autumn sun filtered through the colored leaves, the little acorn heard a voice, no more than a soft tickling, and knew that it must be God.
Don't worry, little nut. I have a whole new life planned for you. A life that is more beautiful than you could ever imagine. You can trust me. You can let go now.
The acorn did trust God, and so, even though it could not believe that there could ever be a more simply splendid spot, faith-filled, it loosened its grip. When the slightest little breath of a breeze washed over its browning shell, the little nut simply let go, and in doing so, began a wonderful journey into the rest of its simply splendid life. The tiny little acorn that had once grown so beautifully in its simply splendid spot on what it believed to be the most beautiful branch on the most beautiful tree in all the great wide woods, had begun that very day to grow into a strong and spectacular oak.
Prayer of surrender to God. Lord, you know what is better for me. Let this be done or that be done as you please. grant what you will, as much as you will, and when you will. Do with me as you know best, as will most please you, and will be for your greater honor. Place me where you will, and deal with me freely in all things. I am in your hand. Turn me about whichever way you will. Behold, I am your servant, ready to obey in all things. Not for myself do I desire to live, but for you. Would that I could do this worthily and perfectly.